Engineers Without Borders is a national student and professional organization whose goal is to provide solutions to problems in developing communities both locally and internationally. In the fall of 2005, students at the University of Alabama organized to form a chapter. Since then, we've implemented projects domestically in Hale County, Alabama, and internationally in Peru, and now in Vietnam and Cambodia. The Vietnam and Cambodia trip was the idea of Eni Tai, a student member of EWB.
I'm really glad that this trip worked out because I've been planning a Vietnam trip for about 3 years, and I've always wanted to lead EWB here and do a project, and I'm very proud of the group that we got to go and accomplish 2 very important water treatment projects, and I hope that we can return in the future and do some more work and help even more people.
The Vietnam and Cambodia project's goal was to study water supply issues in the region and to collect data on water quality. Some people in the region have ceramic water filters in their homes for the purification of their drinking water. We collected samples from both untreated drinking water sources and from household water that had been filtered in order to assess the effectiveness of these filters. On May 10th, we left for Vietnam. We spent the first 2 days touring and getting a feel for the country. We also used this time to learn more about our project in Cambodia. We began our work on the project by familiarizing ourselves with the equipment we brought with us. We gathered on the roof of our hotel in Ho Chi Minh City and listened to Dr. Joe Brown explain the procedure. We would be measuring the turbidity and pH of the water samples. We would also test the water for arsenic and for thermotolerant fecal coliform bacteria. Groundwater contaminated with arsenic is not uncommon in Southeast Asia. This is because rock formations in the area naturally contain deposits of arsenic. When groundwater comes into contact with these deposits, the water becomes contaminated. Extended exposure to contaminated water can have a wide variety of negative effects, including cancer and birth defects. Fecal coliforms are a type of bacteria commonly found in the digestive tracts of animals, including humans. E. coli is perhaps the best-known member of this group. These bacteria are generally not harmful themselves, but their presence is an indicator of the cleanliness of the water. Unclean drinking water causes diseases such as typhoid fever and dysentery. We toured the factory where the ceramic water filters are made. The factory is run by RDI, a non-profit organization. At the site, they not only make the water filters, but also research other ways to help the people of Cambodia. We were led through the factory and learned how the filters are made, and got a look at some other inventions being developed, such as this water pump. Another technology being researched is this self-sustaining fish pond.
Fish cultivation pond, so we're in the process right now of optimizing the chemistry. And the whole purpose of this is to take this model, this sustainable fish cultivation system, and take it out to the villages, areas where maybe protein is very deficient in keeping people's diet, give them that source of protein with the fish, as well as a sustainable source of income too.
We also took a tour of their on-site, state-of-the-art lab facility. After the tour, we drove to Kampong Spoo, where we set up our lab in a local hospital. Dr. Brown had some last-minute instructions regarding field protocol, then we were ready to begin collecting samples. We spent 3 days around Kampong Spoo collecting and processing samples. We took samples from anything that people drank from, such as ponds, rivers, and wells. We typically took 3 separate samples from each location. One sample would be tested for fecal coliform, one tested for arsenic, and the third sent back to RDI to be tested for fluoride. At each location, we interviewed the people who actually drink the water. We asked questions such as how they maintain the source and whether the source goes dry in the dry season. We also recorded the coordinates of the sites and took photographs. Having sampled sites around Kampong Spoo, we packed up our hospital lab and traveled to Siem Reap, not far from the famous Angkor Wat temple complex. We spent a day at Angkor Wat and then got to work collecting samples from around Siem Reap. This time we were working with ADRA, another non-profit organization working in Cambodia. The sites we visited in this area were generally more rural than in Kampong Speu. Many people in this area owned ceramic pot water filters like those produced by RDI. In addition to our normal array of samples, we took an additional coliform sample from the filtered water. The interviews in this area were also slightly different, including questions about how they use their filters and their opinions of them. In all, we sampled about 50 locations around Kampong Speu and Siem Reap. After we collected samples, we brought them back to wherever our lab was currently located to analyze them. One test measured the amount of fecal coliform bacteria that the sample contained. Water was run through a special apparatus designed to catch bacteria from the water sample on a piece of filter paper. This filter paper was put on a growing medium to select for fecal coliform. It was then incubated at 44 degrees Celsius. After the samples had incubated, we counted the number of colonies that formed. Another important test was for arsenic. In this test, several reagents were mixed with the water sample. This produced a gas indicating the level of arsenic in the sample water. A special test strip that changed color depending on the concentration of arsenic was suspended over the solution. The strip could then be compared to a chart to determine the amount of arsenic in the water. The pH of the sample was measured using an ordinary swimming pool testing kit. Reagents were added to the water sample which changed color depending on the sample's pH. Measuring the turbidity of the sample was a fairly straightforward process. The sample was poured into this clear plastic tube. We simply filled the tube up until we couldn't see a mark on the bottom, and then obtained the turbidity measurement from the side of the tube. The data obtained from tests and interviews had to be recorded in an organized manner. Several people were constantly occupied tabulating the data being brought in by the rest of the group. As of the creation of this video, the results are still being compiled. However, there are some preliminary results. We found that the majority of the samples collected were contaminated with varying amounts of fecal coliform, but little to no arsenic. Our group was also able to identify several potential sites around Kampong Speu for a water treatment plant.
What can I really say about it? Going from America to Vietnam was pretty shocking, but nothing was as shocking as going from just going to Cambodia and seeing the piles of trash that are along the side of the road, and just seeing how people live, how it's just like a one-room shack, you know, barely holding together. You can see through it when you look through one side. And just seeing how, other people live, trying to understand, what they get by with every day, day to day. We complain about the hotel we go back to, but, that's their world. And it's just real insightful to see, and it was really good to help, if you can help give somebody clean water, it's a really good thing. Well, it's been a wonderful experience. Overall, it seems like we've run into a few minor and major roadblocks. We've got a fair amount of work done, it seems like, and I think the group's learned a lot from our experience here. And hopefully with this data we'll be able to have some sort of report that we can put together and help these NGOs that we've been working with.
This trip was a learning experience for all involved. We learned about water supply problems in Southeast Asia and some of the proposed solutions. We were also able to experience the cultures of Vietnam and Cambodia firsthand, making this trip a valuable experience for all.